I work at a community college in California system. I'm at the district office, and we provide the administrative applications there for all of the colleges. We have 2 credit-based campuses, Fullerton and Cypress, and we have 1 non-credit and community education we call the School of Continuing Ed. So we serve 3 institutions out of our in our district. We're one of 4 districts within the Orange County, California area. So what I want to do is take you through how we got to Regroup and why we chose it, and talk a little bit about them as a partner. We had a situation where we had multiple systems across our campuses to communicate with our students and staff. And what had happened is, over the years, somebody found a great system, they put it on their campus. Somebody found a great system, they put it on a different campus. And so we had built all of those systems in silos. I don't think that's an uncommon practice in higher ed. And some of the ones that we had were, we call it our robocaller. It was a product called SARS Call. All 3 of our institutions used it at one time, some more than others, and it was used to get informational messages out to students like, you know, don't forget your counseling appointment tomorrow, last day to drop is this week, don't forget, those types of things. And it was based on a very specific technology where you had to have a special card in your server, and it would do the robo-dialing, and you did it through normal POTS lines, like we used to do registration many, many years ago. And then we also had all these email lists that we created across the district for targeted groups. So one campus would have a list for all their students. And that's a lot of work to maintain over time, because you've got, and then somebody makes a copy of it and uses it, and then they don't have the most up-to-date information. And so we had both of those. And so these multiple systems we found were becoming very difficult to maintain, and the technology in the SARS Call product was being discontinued. So we found ourselves in a bit of a predicament. So the other ones we had were, we have the Luminous portal, the Ellucian product. We call it My Gateway. And there's targeted announcements that you can put by population. So we had that methodology. But that requires that a student or staff signs in. So you don't always know that they're going to get it. We had a text and SMS tool that we found in the open source area in our Ellucian community many years ago that we use for emergency communications with our students. And it was reliant, however, on the local carrier being willing to send the message. And we have in California once a year this activity called the Great Shakeout. And everybody in the state acts like we're having the big earthquake and we're going to fall in the ocean. And so during that, what we found when we used this tool, the carrier started to say, no, you're a spammer. And we even got blacklisted by Verizon. So, oh boy, you're all of a sudden you find your communication system breaking down. So that was a problem. And then we purchased a tool, One Call Now, for staff emergency communications. It did text and phone and desk phone and SMS and email, but it really wasn't affordable for our student base because we, at any one point in time, we can have up to 85,000 students we need to contact. Because our School of Continuing Education has over 200 locations throughout our service area where they go out to various high school sites, community centers and things like that to deliver their instruction. So that became unusable, and as you can see, this was not a comprehensive approach, and somebody on a campus might use one piece and not another piece, and you're only getting half the population. And so we found ourselves in this environment of too many options. So, move on. The issues that we had as a result were both functional and technical. This ease of use issue, you got to remember to do it 4 different ways, 4 different sets of instructions, whatever tools you have access to. So if we had just an emergency at our Anaheim campus, which is where the district and School of Communication, we would at a minimum have to use 2 of those different options at the same time to reach students and staff. So you've got a person who's supposed to get the word out. Now they've got to do, now how do I do this one? Oh, okay, I do this on that one. And so that became a problem. And they had varying complexity. Some were pretty simple to use. I have to admit the One Call Now solution was simple. It had an application for your phone or your iPad that would work, and it was real easy to follow. Others, like SARS Call, required a lot of setup and could take you many minutes to get ready. In an emergency, you might not have many minutes to think about. We also found kind of this lackluster user interface with some of them, very inconsistent. We did not have single sign-on, so you signed on and you could get to all the tools because you were logging into each of the tools separately with different credentials. And then talking about the data files, the processes were largely manual. Somebody had to remember every month or every semester to upload that data again. And so we had that issue. Some were semi-automated, which was helpful. And some were automated, but the point being, you had a lot of interface points, all of which could be a failure point for your communications. And so it became really evident to us that the way we had built this and what we had, although very good components in some cases, just as a comprehensive solution wasn't a good choice. So the other thing I mentioned a minute ago was we were blacklisted by Verizon. I talked about the fact that our carriers throttled us because they would go, wait a minute, why are you sending out 10,000 at once? Or you're a spammer, we don't want you around. And so that became an issue. We did try to negotiate directly with carriers to absolutely no avail. And, oh, by the way, well, we'll think about doing that for you, but it's going to cost you, and it would be quite expensive. Because in where we are, we have at least 3 and probably 5 carriers that we would need to have arrangements with just in our area. So we also had some limitations with some of the tools. Some of them, it didn't identify who the sender was. So in the body of the message, you had to say, this is the North Orange County Community College District telling you that we're having the Great Shakeout. This is just a test, right? Well, of your 140 characters, you just used half of it telling them who you were. And so that was a problem for us. Inconsistent conversion of email was another problem we ran into. Some of them did email conversions and they were very inconsistent tool to tool. And then the biggest one for us probably was the physical hardware issues with the SARS call card no longer being able to be put in newer servers. We had to keep this old server in the back that we protected with our life. And we were sending those calls, those robocalls, over POTS lines. Very slow, methodical process, but very slow. Obviously, completely inappropriate for emergency communications. And I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure I don't forget anything. So what we did is we began looking around for solutions, and Regroup was what we found. We found it actually at a conference like this. We met, one of my application development manager met the team, and we started looking around at that. I believe it was EDUCAUSE 2013, is that right? We met them and we started exploring their solution, and here's what we found. Through their solution, we could do phone, which would replace that SARS call piece, and we could get messages out to people's work and home phones. Because sometimes an emergency may happen in the evening and you don't want them to come to work the next day, or you do want them to come to work the next day, that kind of thing. They have a text messaging component, which is nearly instantaneous. And what we found in our text messaging, even with the paid vendor that we use for employees, was this great delay in getting the messages out. We had a 6 to 8 hour delay on one of our tests. And so that was a problem. And so we found that Regroup has been able to provide us near instantaneous, and we're gonna prove that to you today. And then email, we were able to get out without filtering. So that helps, because that means we don't get blacklisted and we don't get in trouble because we're spamming too much email. And probably the best piece is the API piece. They were able to assist us, and they were the only group that we talked to, product that we talked to, that was willing to sit down with us, develop an API to be able to assist us to replace the SARS call, the robo-dial type of functionality. And so we began negotiations, and they've developed that, and we've implemented it, and we're extremely happy with it. And the other thing was that, I don't know if you know it, but you're getting text messages today? Who do you think they're doing that? Regroup. And actually we saw it in action before we signed at eLive last year. They also did the messaging last year. So I think the APIs, to be honest with you, their ability to work with us on an individualized basis really sealed the deal in our mind. And so that is my story. And so I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and we're going to try and do this microphone switch up thing, and he's going to actually show you how this works.
Sure. Perfect. Okay, so this is going to be one of the few demonstrations where we actually ask you to turn up your cell phone. I don't know if you guys have been asked that before, but if you have a cell phone, please feel free to turn it up. We're going to just do a demonstration of, if you want, seeing how you will all get at the same time a text and voice call through Regroup. I'm actually going to text in the message to you guys as well. At Regroup, we pride ourselves on having a number of different ways to send out a message. One is texting in that message. So the instructions are up here. If you send a text message to our short code 30890 with the message join 243189, that's the group name for this presentation group, you'll be in the group, and you'll get a brief confirmation message, and then what I'll do is also text that message out to you. So I'll give you guys a minute to do that. Okay, great. It looks like most people are there. So let's flip to the next slide. You guys should be, that noise might be you guys receiving the confirmation number. I'm going to also just send out a text message to that. This is the interface. This is not actually what my phone looks like, but you can imagine your phone looking like that. And I'm going to send out a text message for this. And then you can, as I send out that text message, you can go to the next slide, and we'll talk a little bit about other interfaces. You guys will, in a moment, be getting text messages, so let's wait for that to happen. So, okay. And who has which ringtone. You'll also be getting a phone number. Please feel free to answer the phone call that you get. I'll answer it as well. And if you say hello, hello.
This is a test from the
Whoopsies. I'm trying to put this up to my lapel.
Notification system. This message will go out via text and voice message. To repeat this message, please press 1.
Great. So you have a message, a voice message that you're getting. If you say hello, it waits for an answer. So if you say hello, we have voice machine detection as well. So it waits for a voice machine or you to stop saying hi, and then it says the message, and you can repeat it by pressing 1. Oh. Cool. So you can imagine that going out for a large campus. Actually, Deborah and Fred, can I ask you guys how large your campuses are?
I have 3 campuses, and between our staff and students, we would be messaging about 85,000 individuals in a full-blown time frame.
Okay, Fred?
I'm keeping it a secret till my site starts.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So it's just, I've talked to a number of different institutions who have things like homegrown systems and that sort of thing. You can imagine the difficulties that take place. For Regroup, we take it upon ourselves to send a high throughput of messaging. We have a few hundred clients throughout the US. We've been an Ellucian partner since before the merger in 2009, do their text messaging for this conference at 8,000. So we're just a company that's doing this day in and day out, and sees a lot of emergencies and a lot of day-to-day notifications that need to be sent out. But I showed you guys what it's like to send a message out via texting in. So you can imagine, I remember a school that had flooding, and an administrator there had her vice president to call her on a Sunday saying you need to cancel the midterms. So she was able to actually just text that in because she wasn't near her computer. You can also do it from any web-enabled phone as well. But one easy interface to do that is our website. So on our website, we'll have a kind of just a really foolproof interface where you can check off how you want to send something. You can send things out through the portal. So many of you guys may be using Colleague Portal, or DataTel's Portal, or Luminous, or Power Campus. So you can integrate the messages with the portal, so students see that there. Or any website, you can send it out via the text-to-speech message, which is that automated voice that you heard. You can also record your voice as well if you want a more natural voice-sounding message. So you can send it out via text. And you can also send messaging out via social media like Facebook and Twitter. So if you add those functionalities, you just check those boxes off. You compose the message or use a template, and then click send on the website. So that's another way to send out messaging. We can go to the next slide. Deborah mentioned our API. This is a really popular option for a couple reasons. One is that you can integrate it with other apps. Deborah mentioned the SARS call app, and I know that I believe you guys also use the SARS scheduling app as well. And one of the big things in California is that there's SSSP funding, which is additional funding that you get if the students are having a higher percentage of going through orientation. So I know we're looking into really exciting initiatives like integrating with other non-emergency apps like orientation apps to just increase student success and student participation, which I know is a big priority for everyone here to increase student success. And integrating texting into the Ellucian products and other products is a really one way to communicate better with students and then therefore increase their success. So our API allows for automated messaging to go out without having to go through any sort of web interface or even without having to press any buttons. So this can be an automated message that could be based on any sort of trigger that you guys have on your end. And it can also do individual messaging. We have one school actually here in Louisiana who Louisiana State University at Shreveport uses us to send happy birthday messages to their students when it's their birthday. That's through our API. That's an individual message, right? So you can imagine not sending a mass notification, but rather a one-on-one notification when it's someone's birthday. So that's a nice touch that they've done through the API. Go ahead, Deborah. This just shows how kind of simple it is. We can skip this one. And I'm going to pass it off to Fred now. This is just a demo. I'll tell you some more about Regroup in a moment, but I'd love to introduce Fred from Contra Costa Community College District, whom we've been working with, and he has some great examples as well.
My name is Fred Tahan, and I'm a senior web administrator at Contra Costa Community College District. Just like Deborah, I actually worked in the district office, which is that building over there on the second floor. We have 3 colleges and a couple of centers. As you see, there's about 31,000 FTEs and about close to about 59,000 headcounts annually. Timing, go ahead. What Deborah basically went through, for her approach or what they went through, I'm not gonna. There are some similarities, but there's some differences too. So I'm not going to go through those similarities. We're going to sort of approach this one as a little bit different because for us, we were not just looking just for Regroup. We had seen Regroup. Actually, I have talked to Joe many years before this, and we know about Regroup. We knew what we were hoping to get out of Regroup, but we were sort of not ready yet. There's some little technical stuff like how do we get phone numbers? We didn't have the phone numbers. How do we get phone numbers? What do we do? What not we do? So it was sort of in the background of just like back of your mind that there is Regroup. But then go ahead. then we had different things happening. Basically, there's different, we had different problems we needed to solve. And they sort of came together. Right, so the police services wanted an emergency notification. We were looking for a self-service password recovery. Basically, it's like students can reset their own password, and we didn't have anything like that, and so on and so forth. And then counseling wanted an appointment, looking for an appointment reminders, and then the wait list. We just wanted to let people know it's like a wait list. So all of these basically happened to happen at similar time. So he said, okay, what do we do? Go ahead. And so we're looking at all these different solutions to cover all of this. When we talk to Regroup for emergency notification, the first thing is basically, unlimited. Imagine you have Starbucks and you can go all day long and just can have all you want. So unlimited texting was, it's like that basically was like great. But then we started looking at the Regroup, and then we say, how do we integrate Regroup for other stuff besides just the emergency? What do we do? And then they start talking to us about API. Because just having the API, it's like, okay, we can use the API to do all of those other stuff integrated together, right? So one of the things was like, every product, as Deborah said, every product they have a way of basically doing some kind of a texting, and all of them they want a cell phone number to be able to do that. So how do we collect that? We don't want to use different systems, and we were not doing it, and we didn't want to start doing, okay, this system's going to collect it, this system's going to collect it. We wanted to actually get it in one place. We want to have one place that we get all the cell phone numbers. Go ahead. And at the same time, we wanted to ask them which kind of information we could send to them. They had to opt in. Okay, do they want any of this information sent to them at the same time? So we started looking at the self-service. And when we looked at that, and we'll go through that, but we use ProtoGuard. And that's nothing to do with Regroup. It's something totally separate. And that's basically what we use to recover it. So students can reset their own password. We can actually use it as a single sign-on. At this point, we said, we can collect our cell phone numbers here. Why? Because the first time you go through ProtoGuard to set yourself, if students logs in the first time, we'll send them a text saying with a little code. You guys have probably seen some of the banks do that. It's like when you do reset your password, you want to change your password, it will send you a code to your phone, and then you have to enter that code into basically in your password to allow you to go to the next step, and allows you to do the password change. So we needed the cell phone numbers. So we started collecting the cell phone number here. So this is a totally different product, but that's what we wanted to do, part of our solution. Go ahead. All our colleges use SARS. And the problem with the SARS was basically you have to use a third-party software in order to send text for appointments, the counseling. Then we had waitlist notification. We wanted to obviously, everybody wants to send information to the students saying, okay, your seat is ready, and come on in. But this was the problem. Students, they don't want to check email, or they forgot, or whatever. My email doesn't work, I didn't get my email, and all of that stuff. So we had issues with that. So we said, okay, we need to text them. We need to text them saying, okay, you're available, and it's right away, basically. So this is what we have now. These are working. ProtoGuard, now we're collecting cell phone numbers. Regroup we use for our texting. Waitlist notification, we use Regroup to send our information through the API for each individual student. It doesn't matter. It's like, so you can send text to thousands, or you can send it to one. And that's what we're using it for. It says pending was the SARS. We were working with SARS, or Regroup was working with SARS in order to set that up. I just found out this half hour ago that it's working now. So we got SARS. It's not pending anymore. It's actually working. So how does it work? So we collect all the through the PortalGuard, we get all our, basically our cell phone numbers. And then, when you go to PortalGuard and log in, one of the first things comes up, it asks you to opt in. The very first time you go in there, you can opt in. You can always go back and opt in again, but at the first time they log in, they basically allows them to opt in for those other information that we want to text to them. Every night we collect all those cell phone numbers that we collected in PortalGuard, and we have to reformat that and basically format that and send it to Regroup to creating our groups. Go ahead. So, and also we collect all the information that who wanted to opt in for what. Okay, so the cell phones for that. The waitlist is basically checks the database that we have collected for the opt-in and find out that if they really want that information sent to them before we send them the information. Okay, so if they do want to, if they have opt-in to get text, and everybody knows it's like sometimes it will, you know, they have a problem. They say, oh, it's going to cost me money and this and that, so they don't want to text, or their phone doesn't accept text. So that's a different story. And then the SARS messaging, if they have opt-in also through the PortalGuard, we're going to use that in order to send the text for the counseling. Go ahead. Okay. So what are we going to use it for from now on? These are stuff that we want to do with this. Okay. Any class cancellations, since we have the API, we can send it to a very small group, to one person, to many. Right? So that opens up the door for a lot of other stuff that we can do. Right? Yes?
Where's the interface for the PortalGuard?
Where interface? Okay, a good question. There is no interface between Regroup and PortalGuard. The information is in a database. The cell phone numbers basically is in a database under the PortalGuard. And what we do, and if you really want to know, tomorrow at 2 o'clock, I have another session. It's called Demystifying SQL Queries. If you're interested in that, I actually use this project to connect Regroup, actually formatting the information that I do for Regroup and send it. I'm using that project to show how queries in SQL works. Awesome. Okay, so I actually will show you how to, the format that I'm sending, the CSV file that I send to Regroup every night. And it's all automated. And one of the cool things was that when I started working with Regroup, they actually had somebody who did, not from the SQL side, they have it for SQL side, but they also have another, basically another procedure that another user used through Unidata, okay, on the colleague side. So they have those two very good examples that you can use to format the information that you send to them. And you can send the information, basically you set information for specific groups. You can have half of this to be in one group and the other half in another group. You can have part of this group and part of that group to be another group. So you can have different ways of, depending on what you want to do really. You can create those groups. One of the really cool things that it happened, well, not a cool thing because it was a bad thing happened, but we had a construction going on to one of our biggest campus, and it just happened that they cut all the wires for network. Okay. So the campus, actually for most of it, not all of it, but most of it, they cut it, and for just that campus, we have a group that we use the Regroup to send that text. Unfortunately, 2 days later, 5 feet away from that same spot, they cut it again. Anyway, so we were down for a few days, But thanks to the texting messages, the regroup, we were able to send all that information to everybody saying what's happening, we're open, we're not open, and it just hour by hour we will able to send people information.
You guys already understand the basic concept of Regroup. This is just kind of a marketing slide about really being a one-click way to get out of social media, mobile phones and desktops, email, and all other ways, RSS feeds, text messaging, voice messaging, all of that stuff. The next slide shows you a little bit about how Regroup has what we like to pride ourselves on is having the most ways to send and receive messaging. So when you have tens of thousands or even any sort of number of students and staff, you have just a diverse group of people to communicate with. And so the challenge is really letting people consume information how they want, but also for you as an administrator being able to use a fully functional suite of ways to get out in front and to communicate with students. So on Regroup, the ways that you can send are through the web. We just showed you the interface. Through using your phone, you can use a smartphone to use our web-enabled, smartphone-enabled site. You can email in a message. So this is popular because sometimes people will even use us almost as a listserv-like functionality as well, with groups of students and choosing an open reply group or an announcement-only group. SMS and text, we went over. The API is the next one. And we've also had cases where people call in our support. Our emergency support is 24/7. You will get a live answer from someone who's directly on staff with Regroup and who's tasked with helping you out, where you can authenticate yourself with your password that you set up at implementation and send a message. If you're somewhere where you cannot send a message, let's say you don't have internet because your line was cut or, I don't know, your tower is out, you can actually call in that message and we'll send that for you. So it's a fully redundant way to really get out messages in the time of emergencies. And there are real emergencies that that happen on campuses. Even one of our campuses today had a very serious incident. What we find is that schools have incidents more often sometimes than they think, where they really need to have a reason to send a message. So please go ahead. And all the ways to send I should have gone through, but you could have digital signage and all of that stuff. We integrate with all of those different ways, loudspeakers, etc. Just a couple quick questions that you'll need to ask yourselves if you're in this process of looking. First of all, one of the other things that is special about Regroup is that we can do emergencies and also the day-to-day notifications that really ensure daily student success. So both Deborah and Fred spoke a little bit about ensuring student success with kind of day-to-day notifications. You can imagine integrating Regroup with the registrar's office to text message students when to register or to sign up for graduation, financial aid, admissions, a lot of reasons that you would want to use other ways of contacting students other than email. So let's zoom through this. We talked a little bit about the ease of use, and you saw the post page. We try to keep it very simple for you. We have a number of, and you can see this when you go through the site. It's a really easy platform. Often within IT, it'll be set up, but then it's delivered to a marketing team or a communications team, and so it needs to be, as Steve Wozniak said yesterday, it needs to be a solution where the technology does what the humans want it to do, and so we do that as well. Fred and Deborah talked a little bit about simplifying database contact management. Regroup has a two-way interface with databases like Colleague and like Banner. So what that means is that, number one, you can populate your database from Colleague or Banner or Power Campus or another database, and you can use any grouping that you have. You might have a grouping for different campuses. You might have a grouping for students or staff. With any grouping that you have, different buildings, etc., you can populate that on Regroup. Regroup got its name a number of ways, but one is the strong group communications tool that it is. And of course, there's also the theme of kind of regrouping after an emergency as well, and so we help with that too through the communications. But anything that you have in your database, any reason to kind of separate people, you can do that through Regroup. And if they update their information on us, you can know about that update as well and get that update. So you're capturing more information.